Hi everyone, I am Nayoka Kelly Campbell of Kelly Fiscal LLC, and I want to welcome you back to another segment of our financial tips and tools. But before I begin, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Don't you want to be notified each time we upload new financial tips and tools? So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, subscribe, and hit that bell. So you must be wondering why I'm so excited. Well, today I'll be showing you how to create a budget. I'll be showing you some sample budgets that you can use for your household. I'll also show you a simple one you can create using the good old Excel spreadsheet. So let's get into it, shall we?
So we have a couple of budgets that I want to show you. This is a PDF file. Now, if you don't have access to Excel or a computer, the next best option is to use pen and paper, or you can print out a PDF sample budget from your library or from one of those printing stores such as Staples or even FedEx or UPS. They have the option for you to print documents. But this is just a sample weekly home budget analysis worksheet that I downloaded from the internet. Here you can see our income categories. If you have multiple incomes, you have take-home pay, you receive bonuses, if you received any sort of gifts, if you filed your taxes and you're due a refund, you can also include that in your budget. Any interest income that you receive from any investment accounts or saving accounts that accrue interest, then you can also put that on your budget. If you receive tips, if you are a waiter or a waitress, or if you work at a location where you receive tips on a daily basis, you can also include that. And you can also include refunds or reimbursements that are due to you. We want to make sure that we capture everything in the income category and itemize it as much as possible. And if you have other categories or subcategories that you want to include, by all means, go ahead. Now, one thing that I like about this worksheet is it breaks it down into 4 weeks. So this is basically 1 month's worth of worksheet for you to use. You have week 1, you have week 2, week 3, week 4. And we know that, there's some months, probably 1 or 2 months out of the year that has 5 weeks. If that is the case, then all you need to do is just to make a copy of this sheet, and you then would start with week 1 for your 5th week. Now, let's move on to the expense categories. We have different expense categories. And as I go through the other examples of budgets that you can use on a daily or monthly basis, you're going to see the expense categories being replicated on each worksheet. So you have a house payment, mortgage or rent. You have land payment, which would be probably a property tax or even rental payment. You have vehicles. Depending on the number of vehicles that you have vehicle 1 payment. You have insurance. You have to purchase gas for your vehicle, so you have vehicle fuel. You also have to service your vehicle, so why not include vehicle maintenance? And there you have the same subcategories for vehicle 2. Then you move on to your electrical bill, your water bill, propane, which is for gas. You have storage. You would also include your groceries, whether you buy your grocery on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, on a monthly basis, include that in your budget. You also have clothing. Include shoes in your budget, cleaning supplies, childcare. You have laundry. If you don't have your own laundry machine and you have to go to the laundromat, include your laundry expenses. If you have children, include those infant supplies. If you have pets, include those expenses. And if you have credit cards, include your credit card payments as well. If you have more than one credit card, you have the other categories where you can itemize your credit cards. You have a Discover card, you have an Amex card, you have a Visa card. You can itemize those credit card payments. And here you would have the total expenses. So you would basically total each column for each week, and you would enter the expenses under the total expenses section. Now, I forgot to mention on the income side, you also have to total your income, because what you will be doing after you have your income and your expenses, you will be subtracting your expenses from your income. And once you subtract your expense from your income, that will either give you a surplus or a deficit, or as the sheet shows, savings or loss. You want to stay on top of your budget. You want to make sure that at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you have a higher savings or higher income than your expenses. Because it makes no sense to have a budget where you have a higher expense section than your income. So the next budget worksheet that I downloaded from the internet, it's pretty simple. It's the simplest budget you will ever find. It basically shows you your income, salary, or wages. If you have additional income, you want to include that as well. And as I mentioned before, you want to include all your expenses. You total your expenses, and then you subtract your expenses from your total income. And that gives you the balance. Again, if you have a positive balance, that's great. If you have a negative balance, you want to go through and review your budget and your finances, just a little bit more. See what expenses can be eliminated from your budget. And with this worksheet that I'm looking at, it says personal home budget, monthly income and expenses. You can use this for your monthly budget, your daily budget, or your weekly budget. And also make sure to name your budget. It can be January 1, week 1, January 7 or 8, week 2. Whatever you think is feasible or reasonable to you, go ahead and name your budget. So again, this is just the simplest form of budget that you will find anywhere. And this was downloaded from the internet. This is also a PDF file, so you can print this out and use it. If you are more a hands-on person where you're using pen and paper, you can print it out and make your notes on this paper, and always make sure you have an organized folder to keep your budget sheets in. So here is a personal monthly budget that I was able to download from Excel. Now, I would probably say this is a little bit more complicated than the other budgets that I showed you prior to this. But what I like about this budget is it has different categories and different segments. However, I like the color coding. It's pretty good. You have your projected costs, your actual costs, and the difference, the same thing as variance. And then you have your different expenses, your housing expenses. Housing expenses, I would consider those mandatory expenses. Why? Because these are expenses that has to be paid each month. So what I normally do is I normally set these expenses up on autopay. So I would suggest you set these expenses up on autopay. And I'll show you my color coding effect on the budget that I created for my own household. And as we scroll down, you'll see your transportation expenses, anything that has to do with your vehicle or with public transportation. You have your vehicle payment, you have your bus and taxi fare, you have your insurance, your fuel, maintenance. Anything that has to do with transportation, you want to put those together. You also have insurance. You have groceries, whether you're buying groceries for your house or if you're dining out. You should include every sort of expense that you can think of or that you spend on a daily basis or a monthly basis. You have your pet expenses. You have your personal care expenses. So make sure you include that in your budget. Whatever expense you can think of that you will be spending on a specific day within a specific month. If it's a small purchase, if it's a large purchase, you need to make sure that you include that in your budget. For your budget to be a workable budget, you have to try to include all your income and all your expenses. Try to think ahead. Think, what expense will I be incurring in the next 2 to 3 months? And you want to make sure you itemize those expenses on your budget. So as you can see here, you have entertainment. If you're going to the movies, a concert, a sporting event, include those expenses. You have your loans, as I mentioned. If you have several credit cards, you want to itemize those expenses as well. Student loans, your personal loan. If you're paying estimated taxes, include that in your expense as well, because that's money going out of your income. So include that. And one thing I want to also mention, and I'm glad we got to this point, savings or investments. And this is actually on the budget that I created, which I'll show you shortly. But savings or investments. Yes, this is money going to a particular account that you're saving. However, on your budget, this is actually an expense, because when you receive your income, you're actually taking money from your income and you're putting it aside towards your savings or your investments. So on your budget, it is considered an expense. And you need to make sure you account for any savings or any investments. You also want to account for gifts and any fees. These are, I would say, gifts and donations and legal fees. These are expenses that are based on one's need. Not every household has these expenses. And let's just go back to savings and investments just for a little bit. You also want to make sure that you're saving at least 20% of your income. So make sure that saving is 20% of your income, which is either going to a regular savings, a retirement account, or an investment account. Always make sure that is the case. And if we scroll to the bottom, here you'll see your total projected cost, your total actual cost, and the difference. Now, this budget was actually pre-filled just a bit when I downloaded it. And here you can see a difference of $41 in the red. What does this mean? It's basically telling you that you are actualizing $41 more than you're projecting. So you are literally at a loss. So you need to review this specific month and see what can be eliminated or that can be reduced. Just try to work with your budget, review, and make sure that it's within your favor. Okay, so this is a sample budget that I created for my own household. Now, as you can see, it's already color-coded, and I basically section my budget by month, then I section it by week. You want to make sure that you have a working budget that basically reflects how income is coming into your household. So if you're receiving income on a weekly basis, try to create a budget that shows each week. If you're receiving income on a bi-weekly basis, create a budget that shows twice a week income and expenses. I always encourage individuals to create a budget based on how often they receive income. So as you can see, I have color codes. I have a color code for auto pay. I have a color code if the expense is paid. And I have a color code if I need to eliminate any expense. Now, let's go back to the paid color code. This is very important. And why do I say that? Because in order for me to color code an expense as paid, I have to be reviewing my budget on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. So you have to make sure you get in the habit of reviewing your finances and your budget on a weekly basis. Now, regarding auto pay, I try to make sure that my mandatory expenses are set up on auto pay. So as you can see, the mortgage is set up on auto pay, electricity, water, internet, cell phone, car note, life insurance, gas, student loan. And these are all hypothetical numbers. And these are all set up on auto pay. But let's go to the savings side. Remember when I mentioned that you want to try to save at least 20% of your income? Well, look at this. I have a money market account. It's set up on auto pay where $275 is going into that account each week. You have an individual IRA account, also set up on auto pay, where $500 is taken out every 2 weeks. Regarding individual IRAs, and this is a segment that I'm gonna speak on at some point, so stay tuned for that. But regarding individual IRAs, you wanna make sure that your contributions stay within the cap or the limit for that specific year. Never contribute more than the cap that the IRS sets. You will be charged a penalty for that. Now let's go to our investment contribution. I have $100 going in each week to that account. So I'm basically contributing 20% of my income, which is $12,500, and 20% of that is basically $2,500. Now you can contribute more, or if it's not feasible to contribute 20%, at least try to contribute something. It is not wise to be receiving your paycheck or income and having your entire paycheck going towards expenses. That's not wise. That's literally digging yourself into a deep hole. Now, again, I have my mandatory expenses, which is mortgage, electricity, cell phone, life insurance, gas, oil. But let's just scroll down just a bit. Here I have other expenses. I have fuel. I have subscriptions. Now, if you notice, these two subscriptions are highlighted in red. Why is that? Because the goal is to eliminate these expenses, and you want to try to eliminate them as soon as possible. And here I have different credit cards. They're also set on auto pay. And you also, as I mentioned, you want to include your entertainment or miscellaneous costs. If you have medical expenses, include that as well. So now in row 45, we have your income over expenses. Now, I did this purposely because I wanted you to get the idea of how to work around your budget. Now, if you're getting pay on a weekly basis and you have certain expenses that are coming out on a specific date or within a specific week, and you notice that for that week, your expense is basically higher than your income. Because once you see this in red, it's telling me that I have more expenses for that week than income that's coming into the household. So what do you want to do? You have a few options. You can either contact your vendors or your suppliers who supplies electricity, who supplies water, or your life insurance company. Contact your vendors and see if they can negotiate a different billing cycle or a different pay cycle. That will help to reduce the amount of expenses that you're paying for that week. Also, grocery, you want to try to move that to the following week, because if you notice, the income over expenses for the second week is actually $3,000 more than expected. So why not move your grocery over to the second week, remove it from the first week, and as you can see, your income over your expenses basically is reduced by $200. Now you have to contact your vendors to see how you can change this up just a bit. You can try to move your life insurance cycle to the second week if they do allow that. And always remember to color code once you shift around your numbers. Always remember to remove the color codes or add color codes. Always remember to tweak your budget. Now, once I move that life insurance expense to the second week, look at that. Income over expenses for the first week in January, I'm basically seeing a surplus for that week. So that's what I'm saying. Once you complete your budget, try to complete it for a year, because by now you would have had an idea. Once you, I guess, pull your bank statements or your credit cards, you would have had an idea of what your mandatory and your monthly expenses will be for the next year. And once you know that, you can pre-fill those expenses on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and tweak it as you go along. So you have to review your budget on a regular basis. Now, in this section, I created, just a synopsis or a snapshot of what my income over my expenses will look like. So, and this is for the year of 2019. So basically, as you can see, I only completed the month of January. Let's say I completed the entire year, and these are the numbers. This is my savings for the year. And based on my income and my expenses, this is basically a surplus that I have for the entire year. Now, what is that showing me? That's basically showing me that I was able, or I will be able, to save at least $6,919 for that entire year. Having a budget has helped me so much over the past years, and I just want to show you, just want to scroll over. You see, I have each month, I have the color codes, I have each week, showing each week, and then at the end of the year, I have a total. So this is one section that I want to show you. I have a total for 2019. Now, at the end of 2019, it shows you your total income. At the end of 2019, it shows you how much you literally saved for that year. It also shows you how much you paid for your mortgage, how much you paid for your electricity, how much you spent on grocery, how much you paid in credit card fees, and this overview will basically show you, listen, I need to get rid, or I need to lower that expense. So I really love this budget that I created for myself. And as I mentioned, I have several different budget worksheets that I work with, so this is a good worksheet. It's very simple. All you have to do is to plug in your numbers and color code and review. This is, I would say, a pretty decent and simplified budget that anyone can use. You can tweak the information as you want. So instead of having mortgage, why not just have rent? Instead of having internet, why not have TV? So you can tweak it as you go along. And this is a budget that is available for anyone. If you need assistance, reach out to me. We can review your finances together, and we can create a simple budget that is workable for you. Thank you for allowing me to show you the different types of budgets that are out there for you to take advantage of, for you to utilize on a daily basis.
So there you have it. A few sample budgets that you can definitely use and structure according to your liking and your need. However, I know that budgets can be very time-consuming and frustrating at times. And that's why we are here. We can assist in reviewing your finances and creating a workable budget for you. Contact us for a free consultation at nayoka@kellyfiscal.com or 347-201-2228. We will help you to maintain your financial health. And if you have any questions or need me to speak on something specific in one of our segments, please send me an email or leave a comment. Again, thanks for joining us in another segment, and tune in every Sunday where we provide you with financial tips to help you maintain your financial health. Thank you guys for watching.